Sigmund Freud was born on May 6, 1856, in Freiburg, Moravia, then part of the Austrian Empire, today the Czech Republic. He was the eldest of 8 children in a Jewish family of modest means. His father, Jakob Freud, a wool merchant with a sardonic wit, was nearly 20 years older than Amalia, the bright and affectionate mother who adored her firstborn. Freud later remarked,
"The devotion gave me the feeling of a conqueror."
When Freud was 4, the family moved to Vienna, a city that would shape both his intellect and imagination. In crowded rooms lit by oil lamps, the young boy studied voraciously, translating Greek and Latin by candlelight. Though money was scarce, books were plentiful. His curiosity grew toward the mysteries of thought, dreams, and human behavior. Although his family was largely secular, Freud's Jewish heritage remained a quiet but enduring influence. Throughout his career, he encountered anti-Semitism within Vienna's academic and medical institutions, which often blocked his path to senior positions. This exclusion, while painful, may have been catalytic, driving him away from institutional medicine and toward independent inquiry. Surrounded by a small circle of Jewish colleagues, he began to cultivate the ideas that would become psychoanalysis. This background also later shaped his reflections on culture and faith, culminating in works such as Moses and Monotheism, where psychology and identity intertwined. At 17, Freud entered the University of Vienna to study medicine. He immersed himself in zoology, physiology, and neurology, fields alive with discovery. For weeks at a time, he dissected the nervous systems of eels, searching for reproductive organs under a trembling microscope. His patients astonishing, even his professors. They saw in him a rare union of precision and imagination. A scientist willing to follow data into the unknown. After earning his medical degree in 1881, he began work as a neurologist. Yet, even in the clinic, he sensed that the roots of illness ran deeper than the body. In 1882, Freud met Martha Bernays, and the two were engaged just a few months later. Their engagement was a long and tumultuous one, fueled by an intense 4-year correspondence that forms a crucial biographical record of his early intellectual life. They finally married in 1886 and would go on to have 6 children, including his youngest and most famous daughter, Anna Freud. During the mid-1880s, Freud became fascinated by cocaine, then hailed as a medical wonder. He praised it in a paper as a stimulant that might banish fatigue and lift melancholy. For a brief time, he even recommended it to colleagues and patients. But when a close friend succumbed to addiction and death, Freud was devastated. He quietly abandoned the substance and never spoke of it again. The episode remained a small but painful reminder of science's capacity for both discovery and self-deception. Freud's true turning point came through collaboration. In the early 1880s, he worked with Viennese physician Joseph Breuer, who was treating a young woman known as Anna O. Bertha Pappenheim. When Breuer encouraged her to speak freely about her anxieties and memories, her paralysis and hallucinations subsided. She called this process the talking cure. Freud was captivated. Here was proof that words could heal where medicine could not. Emotional conflict, he concluded, could lodge in the body and return as symptom until brought into consciousness. To deepen his understanding, he studied in Paris with Jean-Martin Charcot, who used hypnosis to explore hysteria. Hypnosis intrigued him but felt theatrical, a temporary glimpse into a deeper landscape. Returning to Vienna, he replaced it with a quieter method, free association, inviting patients to say whatever came to mind. Out of that torrent of uncensored thought, he began to map the hidden architecture of the unconscious. It was through this process he realized that the unexpressed was the unresolved. As he famously observed,
"Unexpressed emotions will never die. They are buried alive and will come forth later in uglier ways."
Among his notable analyses was the case of the wolf man, a patient plagued by dreams of wolves staring from a tree. By tracing the imagery to early fears and repressed memories, Freud showed how symbols concealed emotional truth, how nightmares were coded messages from the depths. From such cases, a discipline was born: psychoanalysis, the systematic study of the unseen mind. In 1900, Freud published The Interpretation of Dreams, a book that changed both psychology and literature. He proposed that dreams were the royal road to the unconscious, expressions of desire disguised by censorship and symbol. He outlined his first topographical model of the psyche: the conscious, the field of awareness; the preconscious, the threshold of recall; and the unconscious, a vast subterranean realm where repressed wishes and conflicts continue their work unseen. He gave a powerful analogy for this subterranean world, stating,
"The mind is like an iceberg. It floats with 1/7 of its bulk above water."
Symptoms, he argued, were compromises between forbidden impulse and social restraint. Later, he recast this structure into the dynamic triad of id, ego, and superego: instinct, reason, and conscience, locked in perpetual negotiation. Early in his career, Freud advanced the seduction theory, believing that childhood sexual trauma caused hysteria. As he listened to more patients, he came to suspect that many of these accounts were fantasies rather than literal memories. That realization, painful and revolutionary, led him to the concept of infantile sexuality, the notion that children are driven by instinctual forces, later shaped by repression. From that moment, the psyche became a battleground between desire and denial, not merely a record of external harm. Freud described 5 psychosexual stages of growth: oral, anal, phallic, latency, and genital, each centered on different bodily zones and emotional tasks. Conflicts unresolved at any stage could crystallize into lifelong patterns. The phallic stage, between ages 3 and 6, held what Freud called the Oedipus complex, the child's unconscious longing for the opposite sex parent and rivalry with the same-sex parent. This drama, he believed, forged both morality and identity. In mastering it, the child turned forbidden desire into conscience. Civilization itself, Freud claimed, depended on that transformation. As his influence grew, so did dissent. His followers included Carl Jung and Alfred Adler, each destined to break away. Adler rejected the primacy of sexuality, emphasizing the will to power and feelings of inferiority as central motives. Jung redefined the libido as a general life energy and proposed the collective unconscious, a shared reservoir of myths and archetypes. Freud regarded these departures as betrayals, yet the schisms gave psychoanalysis new branches. The movement he founded became a forest of competing schools, evidence that he had touched a living root of human thought. By the 1930s, Freud was world famous, translated into dozens of languages, cited by writers and artists, condemned by clerics. He had already endured more than 30 operations for cancer of the jaw, punishment for decades of heavy cigar smoking. Even so, he continued to dictate essays and receive patients. When Nazi Germany annexed Austria in 1938, his Jewish heritage placed him in grave danger. His books were burned, his home searched, his passport confiscated. When forced to sign a statement declaring he had been well treated by the Gestapo, he added in pencil, "I can most highly recommend the Gestapo to anyone." Friends, including Princess Marie Bonaparte, paid dearly to secure his escape. In London, he was joined by his daughter Anna Freud, his devoted caretaker and intellectual heir. A pioneer of child psychoanalysis and ego psychology, Anna extended his theories, showing how the mind defends itself through repression, projection, and denial. Father and daughter worked side by side until the end. By 1939, pain dominated his final days. Faithful to his belief in conscious choice, Freud told his physician, Dr. Max Schur, that when the agony grew unbearable, he wished it ended. Schur honored his request, administering a final dose of morphine. Freud drifted into sleep and died on September 23, 1939, at the age of 83, serene, deliberate, and aware. Sigmund Freud redrew the map of the human soul. He revealed that beneath logic lies an undercurrent of memory, fear, and desire, that our dreams, slips, and jokes are clues to what the waking mind conceals. He gave the modern world a new language: repression, transference, ego, libido, neurosis, Freudian slip. Critics challenged his methods. Scientists revised his claims. Yet his influence radiated beyond medicine into literature, art, and philosophy. Even those who reject him speak his dialect of doubt and desire. Freud charted the dark interior of the human condition, and though his voyage began in a modest Viennese study, its echoes still reach wherever people dare to ask the oldest question of all: why we do what we do.